Welcome back, Music Maniacs, to another episode of Gibbs Drops the Needle, your one-stop spot for all things music. Today I got a little something different for you. So normally things on this channel have been very news-based and information-based as far as people passing and going over that, or award ceremonies and going through the nominees and winners of those, or even the weekly things I like to do, New Music Friday, and then the top songs and albums and artists for the week. So I got a little something different I wanted to do for this episode. I wanted to get more into maybe music tips as far as musicians are concerned. So this is something that is possibly for a musician just starting out. Maybe you've been a musician for a while and you can learn something new to really help you out and help you create your own sound. Maybe you're into music production and this could help you out, or maybe you're just a curious fan about how your favorite artist achieves their sound. So I wanted to get into the importance of reverb when it comes to effects, because this was something that, as a musician that started playing back when I was in high school, I kind of snoozed on reverb and its effect on your sound and how it can really help you shape a sound that you're going for. I originally thought that, why do I need to sound like I'm playing in a stadium? I don't need to do that. So I didn't really waste my time experimenting with reverb a whole lot. I do want to preface this episode with the fact that I am going to be mentioning some different products that I have used throughout the years. I am in no way sponsored by any of these products. These are products that I bought with my own money because I did research and decided that these were the best products for me at the time. So I just wanted to put that out there so that you don't think that I am pushing anything on you guys. This is just what I use or have used in the past. So with that out of the way, I want to get into kind of my story about my neglect of the reverb, for instance. So back when I had combo amps and stuff like that, I just never realized to play with the reverb knob at all. Again, like I said, this was something to me that I just thought of, why do I need to sound like I'm playing in a stadium? So I didn't really play around with it at all. I was self-taught on all of those things. If you went back to my introduction, I've already talked about how I was self-taught when it comes to guitar and stuff. So a lot of this experimentation came some trial and error, a lot of error, and really finding throughout the years and gaining that experience to realize what helped shape my sound. Obviously, it's easy to say that you want to sound like, say, I like sounding like David Gilmour. I would love to sound like David Gilmour, but you don't really know what goes into that. And I initially got the idea to do this video because of an article I saw that was saying how impactful reverb was. And I was going to cite that article and use it to kind of make my point, but I instead decided to do this because they were pushing their own DAW, and I'm going to try to make this very simple just in case there are inexperienced people out there listening to this, or just people that are curious about how artists get their sound. So a DAW is a digital audio workshop. This would be like your Logic Pro, which I use, or Pro Tools, which I have used in the past. I just find I came from using GarageBand when I was very early starting out. So Logic Pro was a little easier for me to make that jump than it was in, say, a Pro Tools. But both very good DAWs, both industry standards. I believe today Pro Tools is probably the more preferred industry standard when it comes to digital audio workshops. So I use Logic Pro, but again, this article was geared towards how to exactly replicate those reverb sounds using a specific DAW. So I didn't really want to cite that article too much because it really excludes everyone that doesn't use that DAW. And I don't even remember which one it was. I don't think it was even Logic Pro, but it was just something that I didn't want to directly cite that article. So I decided to do this instead. Again, talking about my combo amps and stuff, I didn't see the need for reverb at the time. Fast forward to me getting multi-effects pedals, and I use these, and a lot of times they would have a certain amount of signals that you could put into this, so a certain amount of effect. So like distortion would be a pedal that would take a slot, phaser would take a slot, chorus would take a slot, tremolo, delay, all these things would take up a slot. And I at the time did not see the purpose in making reverb take up a spot, so I skipped it there as well. I recorded a lot of my own music, like I said earlier, on GarageBand. Didn't really record using reverb or anything at all, just studio sound basically. My home studio, but still like a very dry sound, I would say. No effects really mixed in with that when it came to the reverb and stuff. And I have mentioned before that I play acoustic and sing, and I'm always looking for ways to make that more entertaining, because I have seen articles out there that say that acoustic artists are boring, and I get paranoid at all times that I'm losing audiences because people agree with that article and acoustic and vocal are boring. So I try to find ways to make myself as a single musician stand out and bring some different sounding things to each song. So in doing this, I found a harmonizing pedal. So that would be for my vocals, and it would make it to where it would sound like multiple parts. So I could have like a lower harmony or a higher harmony or even like a 4-part harmony. And the equipment that I used for that was the TC Helicon Harmony GXT, which was a very good starting out pedal and definitely did a good job with the harmonies, but it didn't leave a lot with the reverb. You could basically make yourself sound like you were in a hall, or you could make it a room reverb sound. So that wasn't really an awakening to how reverb would make me sound, because it had such limited resources when it came to that. But a very good harmonizing pedal if you're just looking for something to give you some vocal layers. It was very good for that. My next step up from that was the TC Helicon Play Acoustic. I am a acoustic artist, so it made sense for me to get this. And I loved this because you could put your vocals into it and your guitar. So it was a multi-effects pedal into one that would do my vocals and my guitar. And you could shape the sounds of it, though the reverb was kind of limited on it. So you had a plate reverb, room reverb, spring, ambience, lo-fi, tile, smooth plate. So you had a few options when it came to guitar reverb, but Nothing really dialed in too much. I guess it did have some stadium settings and dark room settings and stuff like that, but I didn't really value it as much on the guitar with this pedal. I saw it more as a vocal effects, and that's when it kind of opened my eyes to just how much reverb can shape and add to your sounds. So I was able to again go through this on the vocal side of things, and it was a harmony pedal as well. I could add in the high low harmonies, or too higher harmonies, lower harmonies. I could kind of make it do a little bit of a gang vocal or double my vocal, and so that was cool. But the reverb setting was the first time that I had really thought about reverb when it came to my sound quality, and it was a night and day difference. As someone, as I mentioned, that likes to try to find ways to make myself catch that listener's ear a little more and differentiate between songs, reverb is such a great tool to do so. And even when you are adding just a studio reverb, it has it on this play acoustic pedal. You can just have a room or a studio, or just a little bit of a touch will do so much for your sound that it almost seemed like a duh moment when I finally discovered and found this out. And again, maybe you are someone who has known this for the whole time and you're listening and you're going, well, duh, you should have known that starting out. But again, self-taught, trial and error, a lot of error. And sometimes you're slow to pick up on that. So that's why I wanted to put this out there, because this was such a handy tool for me in discovering the effects of reverb. Now, you take something like that, and it was a great pedal for me, and I used it for a long time when it came to playing live, because I liked that it was one pedal for the guitar and vocals, and you could have the settings dialed into each one. But again, the guitar settings were very minimal when it came to what you could do actually. It had the reverb, which was nice to discover that, but then it was very limited on the sound you could get after that. Like, it had a few different chorus pedals built in, maybe a phaser or a flange. And at the time, I thought it was everything I needed in a pedal. But then came the day where I went from a PC based computer, which I had that pedal hooked up through, to switching over to a Mac computer. And I tried, because the PC computer died on me, so there was no being able to go back and use that at all. So I was trying to get this pedal hooked up through my Mac, but when I went to download the, I believe it's Voice Live, is their kind of workshop station that you can get on there and edit your effects and save them and copy them and make all that happen, and it didn't work for Mac. And I tried uninstalling and reinstalling and doing all these things. I looked up multiple videos on how to fix this issue for me, and sadly the issue was that they put out an update for it and Mac wasn't working with it. So when you would go to start up this program, it would basically say, hey, you need an update. But then you would try to update and there wouldn't be an update available for you. And it was basically a bricked system. So that made it hard for me to be able to use that pedal and add songs. I constantly like to go through and add more songs to my playlist, and I don't know if I had mentioned, but the Play Acoustic was very nice in the fact that I could go through and literally make a preset for every song I played. So every song would have a different sound to it. And that again was something that really drew me to that pedal, because I loved being able to literally make every song sound a little bit different from the last. And that made me feel a little better when it came to performing, that maybe as just a solo acoustic musician I could keep the attention of the audience. So I was kind of in limbo there for a while because I couldn't really add new songs to the pedal. I'm sure it has a way to just manually put things on there, but I didn't want to really spend too much time into that. And it was just kind of a hassle, really, because it didn't have a very easy working system to work through the pedal. So I did a lot of research about something like the Play Acoustic that I could use that stepped away from the TC Helicon family, because I didn't want to get trapped into having to use this application that was failing to load on my computer all the time. So after a lot of research and watching a lot of YouTube videos, I settled on the Headrush Core. And this is a phenomenal choice because, again, it has vocal and guitar effects, which is just great. But it has a whole signal chain for the vocals and a whole signal chain for the guitar. Or if you really wanted to, like I used this when I was playing in a musical pit this last spring, I used the same pedal for my electric guitar, because you could make it to where it was just electric guitar and you could build out a whole electrical chain for that. So a lot of the times when I'm talking about these signal chains, I don't know if I had mentioned it and really went into it earlier. I had mentioned that each one is kind of an effect, but a lot of times your sound has to do with how you're building out these chains. And what's cool about something like the Headrush Core, or even the Headrush Prime, I believe is the more expensive model, but I didn't really need all the bells and whistles that that had on it, because at the core of it, to use the name of the product, at the core of it, it has the same operating system in it, and so you're not really gaining too much other than some extra pedals and knobs to manually push. But as far as the whole operating system itself, it's the same. So I went with the slightly more affordable core. And you can set up these signal chains exactly how you want them. It's great because you can decide what order you're putting everything in. It has reverb. It has so many choices for reverb. There is probably 10 categories for reverb on this thing, and each category is different. If you want to go for spring sound, if you want to go for a plate sound, if you want to dial it in easily to just sounding like you're in a room or studio or hall, it has those options. And then what I really liked about it, and I don't know if the TC Helicon Play Acoustic was really able to do this. I didn't dabble with it that much, but it was so easily accessible in this pedal that I did, is you can click on each effect, and so the reverb, and you can edit every part of this pedal like it was its own physical pedal. You can sit there and turn all the knobs and dial in to exactly what you want. And again, it just made reverb such an amazing tool to use. And so you had that, you have multiple headers to pick from, which is a lot of the times where the guitarist gets their sound. You have cabs, which is basically your speaker, that you can choose multiple of those and different, have things coming in different ways. And It's just such a great pedal. I feel like I have barely scratched the surface of everything that this thing can do. I know it also is a bass pedal. It's also a vocal pedal, obviously doing the vocal and guitar at the same time. It's such a great pedal, but maybe I can do a workup on everything that the pedal has to offer. I kind of briefly went over it with you here, but maybe I can do a full review on this pedal if that's something you guys would be interested in. But mainly the reverb is what I'm talking about. So again, you can go in, you can dial all these sounds, which is great. And then I found another tool on this pedal that really is a game changer when it comes to my acoustic styling. And that was a setting on this pedal called Ambi Reverb. And what this does is basically make like an orchestral or choir sound behind what you're playing. So you'll get that reverb of a bigger area, recording space, that little bit of echo, because that at its root is really what reverb's all about. It's sounding like it's in a bigger space, or what kind of space you're playing in is really, because I guess it can be toned down to where you're just playing in a studio or just a room, so there's not really a huge bounce for the sound. There's also halls and concert halls and arenas, and those would have more of a broad sound and more echoey, more bounce out there, filling up the void that the pedal tells it that you're playing in, basically. So this ambi reverb is nice because it gives you that big open feel, and you get quite a bit of reverb mixed in, but again, you can dial it back if you need to, which is really nice. But it gives you that orchestral or choir sound behind it, and does it just add a lot to my sound, and I love it. I can't say enough good things about this pedal and the ability it has given me to really tone in my sound. But getting back to the root of this episode is the importance of that reverb. Even if you are setting it on a room setting or a studio setting, it adds so much to your sound. And I just wanted to put this out there because I didn't want same earlier artists making the same mistake that I did and ignoring this effect for so long. And again, maybe I'm just an idiot and it took me way too long to figure it out. But once I figured it out, it really shapes your sound, and it's how you figure out that a lot of your favorite musicians are able to shape their sound, because you can have the distortion in the chorus and you can have the harmonies on your vocals, but it all just kind of sounds flat without that little hint of reverb. That's really, I would say, the icing on the cake is the reverb, because that really adds that last touch that you need to set the song off and really give it that flair. So I don't know if this was at all helpful to anybody or at all interesting to anybody. I just thought of the concept for this episode and thought that, man, I wish I would have known the importance of something like reverb earlier on in my playing days. So I hope this was somewhat informative. If you would like more things like this, more music tips, or me to dive more into any of the pedals that I mentioned, or maybe you just want some help on reviewing something else music related, maybe I can help out with that. Just drop comments and like and subscribe and follow. I really appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Gibbs. This is Gibbs Drops the Needle. Stay safe and be kind.